This was possibly the best dupe I found. From the very first time I tried this one, I could tell it was not coming close, and dare I say, the Donki might even be better. Minasan konnichiwa, this is Tina and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will be reviewing the Donki dupes of popular J-beauty products. If that sounds like your thing, then please go ahead and channel登録しちゃってください. So last time I was in Japan, I went to Don Quijote, as you do, and I did notice that quite a few of their in-house skincare products were basically dupes for very popular, iconic Japanese skincare products. So I asked you guys on Instagram whether you would want to see a comparison review between the original product versus Donki, and it was a overwhelming yes, so here we are. I will be comparing 6 products on 4 kind of main key points: the ingredients, packaging, texture, and then most importantly, the efficacy or user experience of the product. Donki does have a few different in-house brands, but everything in today's video is under the brand Cosparade. Please keep in mind that Donki products are pretty much impossible to find online unless you live in a country that already has Donki stores. Even then, like even in Japan, you can't kind of readily purchase all Donki products online. So please think of these as exclusively to grab if you are traveling in Japan, because that's like the only time it's worth it in terms of like the price as well. Not gonna lie, majority of the products are cleansers. Maybe they are something that is a little easier to dupe than other skincare products, so I will be starting with those. First, we have Mascara Remover, which was definitely the first product I picked up. I actually bought it even before I had the idea for this video because I was just so curious to see how it compares to the iconic Holy Grail one that I already use. The Donki one is called Cosparade Mascara Remover, and we will be comparing it to the Hero Make Speedy Mascara Remover. First things first, let's take a look at the ingredients. Now, please note that there can be slight differences in the ingredients list that you can find online, especially when it comes to skincare, because the information can be taken from different places. It can also go through different reformulations and the ingredients list might be slightly different, but because of that, I took them directly off the packaging rather than relying on anything online. Literally, whatever the ingredients list here on the physical packaging is the Japanese ingredients list I got, and then I used ChatGPT to translate it. Now again, when you're translating from one language to another, there might be slight differences in it, but I think it's as close as we're going to get, and I try to be very, very meticulous with the ingredients list. So it is clear that Donki does have less ingredients in this one compared to the Heroine Make. It does use oil-like emollients to break down the makeup, whereas the Heroine Make does use a bit more kind of plant-based oils. Other than that, in terms of kind of skin and lash benefiting ingredients, the Donki does have hydrolyzed collagen, silk, and keratin, which are all generally to help with conditioning and strengthening your eyelashes, as well as biotinoyl and tripeptide 1, as well as panthenol, which supposedly does help the growth of your lashes. In comparison, the Hero Make does have squalane and royal jelly, which is going to help nourish your skin as well as your lashes, and then ginseng extract and tocopherol, which is going to support lash health and strength. Honestly, both of them do have good ingredients. They do have ingredients to break down the makeup, as well as some nourishing or kind of lash supporting ingredients too. Next, we are going to take a look at the packaging. The outside packaging looks like this. I mean, pretty similar. And then the actual bottle as well, it is basically identical. It is like a rounded brush that is not very pointy, making it easy to apply onto the lashes without them basically getting caught in the teeth of the comb. Now, I was actually looking at the packaging and could not find the volume of the Donki anywhere on the packaging on this or on the actual like pack, which is kind of crazy, but after doing some research, it says it contains 7.5 grams of product and it retails for 659 yen, and then the Hero Make is 6.6 mils for 924 yen. So not really a surprise, but the Donki does contain a little more product and is cheaper than the Heroine Make. Moving on to the texture. So as soon as you take the brush out, there is a bit of a difference in the kind of consistency of the Actually, that is a great example in a sense. The Donki one is definitely a looser formula, so it is more watery, whereas the Hero Make is definitely thicker. The difference with that is when you're going to apply it, the thicker texture, you can actually coat a lot more at once, versus the Donki, I do have to kind of dip in multiple times to get the actual product coated all over the lashes, since it is a thinner formula. Now for the efficacy and actual user experience, I must say they do feel very similar. Overall, the Hero Make is definitely a slight bit easier to apply onto the lashes, and I do feel like it starts to work a little bit quicker. For example, I will apply this and then I'll take like my regular oil cleanser, cleanse the rest of my face, and then when I go to move on to my eyes, I can tell that it's just ready to slip off. Like that mascara is already broken down, whereas this, I can feel a little bit of the hardness of the mascara, like it hasn't fully dissolved yet. But overall, both do remove mascara well, and it washes off well without leaving any like greasiness on the eyes too. So does it qualify as a dupe? Honestly, yeah. If you do want to save even just a few bucks, it is close enough. So if you are passing by a Donki in Japan, I think it is worth grabbing one. Personally, I would still rather pay the few extra bucks to get the Hero Make one. I just feel like it really does work instantly. Wait, let me just wipe this up real quick. Next, we have oil cleanser, the Cosparade Premium Lakuchi Cleansing Oil and the Biore Perfect Oil Makeup Remover. This one used to be my holy grail. Like this was the first cleansing oil that I was absolutely obsessed with. Every time I went back to Japan, I used to buy like 2 bottles. Let's first take a look at the ingredients list. Again, the Donki definitely does have lesser ingredients. They are both mineral oil based, but Donki does also have other oils like jojoba and squalane. It does also have damask rose flower oil and fragrance for the fragrance, and it's actually kind of a selling point, I guess you could say, because it does say like rose aroma. I must say the rose scent is pretty strong, not my absolute favorite. The Biore, as mentioned earlier, is mineral oil based, and then it also has other emollients to help dissolve that makeup, and it does also contain significantly more cleansing ingredients. This one does also have fragrance, although it is a kind of lighter fruity floral scent, which I do prefer. I mean, I used this for such a long time, it's probably like nostalgic too, but the scent on this one is a little less intense than the Donki. Overall, with the inclusion of alcohol as well as more cleansing ingredients, I would say the Biore focuses more on really trying to remove that makeup properly, and the Donki might be more of a gentle formula. Packaging, honestly, there is not much of a muchness. They obviously look pretty similar. They are also both pump bottles that work fine. The Donki one is 250 mils and retails for 438 yen. So this is super duper cheap. It's 400 yen, like so cheap. Whereas the Biore is 230 mils at 1,265 yen. So significantly more expensive and lesser in volume, if we're technically speaking, by 20 mils. Texture is something that is quite hard to tell on camera, but the Donki one is definitely a little thicker. So if you don't like the feeling of something heavy or thicker on your skin with oil cleansers, it might be like a little icky. Whereas the Biore one does have a very fluidy, watery texture. Efficacy and user experience. So on dry skin, honestly, they are really similar. They remove makeup well, take about as long as each other. Again, the Biore does feel like a bit more lightweight on the skin, but overall in terms of its actual like ability to remove makeup on dry skin, they were like essentially identical. But the biggest difference was seen when trying to use it on wet hands and face, which is actually a characteristic that is often seen in Japanese oil cleansers. I've talked about it multiple times before, and is also a selling point of both of these products. Like literally on the front, 水に濡れていてもぐんぐん落ちる. Like even if it's wet, it does remove very well. And then on this one, it says お風呂で使えるメイク落とし. Like you can use it in the bath, basically even in a wet situation. And then on the back, it does say you can use it on wet hands and face too. The Biore, absolutely flawless. Even in a wet environment, it still stays a pleasant thin texture that feels nice on your skin, and it does remove your makeup fine even if you're in the shower. Whereas the Donki, this stuff gets thick and gluggy. You can tell even in the process of just emulsifying. The Biore one, the oil ingredients really do dissolve easily and kind of create that milky look, but still stays really, really thin and a workable texture. Whereas the Donki, it can get really thick, chunky, and you can literally see like the oil components in the formula struggling to break down in that water. So does it qualify as a dupe? In my opinion, no, it does not. If you are someone who does cleanse on dry skin at a sink, then yeah, honestly, you can probably get away with this one. It is so affordable. Granted that you don't mind that rose scent, but if you do want something that is going to work in the bath, the shower, and still have those strong makeup removing capabilities, then the Biore is definitely worth the extra money that it costs. Although honestly, the Kosei Speedy Cleansing Oil probably trumps this one because it is like half the price but works just as good, and is also fragrance free if you don't like fragrance. So just go with the Kosei one. Still loved it though. I mean, it was good to have it back in my life. It was like nostalgia. Next, we have face wash, the Cosparade Whip Premium Foam Cleanser versus the Senka Perfect Whip. These are definitely a pretty basic foaming cleanser. The Senka is definitely an absolute cult favorite and possibly one of the first ever like face washes that I used in J Beauty when I was like a measly little 14-year-old or something. First things first, let's take a look at the ingredients. So again, Donki does have a less complex ingredients list. It uses mostly fatty acids as cleansing agents. Senka does have similar cleansing agents for fatty acids, but on top of that, it does also have 3 more gentle surfactants. For Donki, the skin benefiting ingredients they list are glycerin, honey, hydrolyzed collagen, hyaluronic acid, and hydrolyzed silk. So generally just hydrating ingredients. And then for Senka, they have glycerin, sorbitol, sericin, which is also silk derived, and then 2 types of hyaluronic acid. So again, generally just hydrating ingredients, and they do both contain fragrance. In terms of the actual fragrance, I think I prefer the Senka one, mostly because like I'm so used to the smell. Like it's a smell that's very, again, like nostalgic. And then the Donki one, I would say just has a very like clean skincare scent, a very common kind of smell in Japanese skincare. Now, packaging is pretty similar too. Obviously the tube is slightly different shape, but they are both just like the flip top. The Donki is 140 grams for 329 yen, so very cheap, obviously, like $3 if that. And then the Senka is 120 grams for 548 yen. So again, Donki is bigger and cheaper, but Senka is still pretty cheap. I mean, it's like a cleanser for $5, which these type of foaming cleansers last such a long time. So both pretty affordable. Moving on to texture. So right out of the tube, I would say Senka is a little bit thicker and almost has a more kind of stretchy, chewy, kind of slimy texture, whereas Donki is a bit more of a looser, watery formula. Both of them a little bit goes a long way and create a very generous lather. When I foam it with just my hands, honestly, they feel like identical, but if you do use kind of like a foaming tool, I would say the Senka is a denser, fluffier kind of form holding foam. Efficacy and user experience. With these, I literally washed side by side. Like I took a little bit of cleanser on both sides and washed it side by side because it is really hard to tell just by using one or the other at different times. They both cleanse extremely well and wash off the same way, and the after wash feeling, it will be impossible to tell on camera. Like there's just no way you'd be able to tell, but physically feeling my skin after I washed it, the Senka actually has more of that squeaky clean feel. Like I can feel the kind of gripping friction when I touched my skin after cleansing. And then I even got Logan to touch my skin. I was literally like, touch it. And without telling him, he could tell which one was like more squeaky clean, like. So does it qualify as a dupe? Yes, it does. And dare I say, the Donki might even be better. The Perfect Whip is definitely an OG, but I feel like it was before a time where we thought the skin barrier was as important as we do now. And before a time we had like gentler cleansing options like gel and milk cleansers too. For me personally, both of them are too drying for my skin. Like after I finish washing them, it definitely does feel a little too dry for me. But if you want something that cleanses really, really well, but isn't quite as drying, I honestly think the Donki is going to be a little less stripping on the skin. And yeah, it's cheaper too. So you might as well get the Donki if you can. Okay, the last cleansing product we have is powder wash. The Cosparade Whip Premium Enzyme Facial Cleansing Powder versus the Susai Beauty Clear Powder Wash. Obviously an absolute cult favorite and one of my favorite kind of powder enzyme washes too. Let's take a look at the ingredients. So it is actually the first time that the Donki has more ingredients in terms of just how many ingredients in the list compared to the Susai. The Donki does use 4 cleansing agents, some of those being kind of more gentle amino acid based surfactants, so lower on the irritation, and then the Susai contains 5 cleansing agents, some with higher cleansing power. So it seems like the Susai is definitely focusing more on that deep, strong cleanse compared to the Donki. The enzymes that the Donki one contains are papain, protease, and lipase, and they are all going to help break down that dead skin cell, basically help to exfoliate the skin. And then the Susai has 2 protease and lipase. And then lastly, for kind of general skin benefiting ingredients, the Donki has hyaluronic acid, trehalose, sorbitol, silk, and then lactobacillus ferment. So hydrating and barrier protecting ingredients. And then the Susai has DPG for hydrating and then a AHA for exfoliating too. I would say the Donki ingredients do seem to be a bit more skin beneficial and then definitely gentler, whereas Susai is better for exfoliating purposes. For the packaging, both are individually wrapped. As you can see, the Donki does just have a flimsy plastic container, whereas the Susai does have a little bit more solid lid, a little bit more higher quality, but honestly, so much plastic that is going to get thrown in the bin anyway. If anything, less plastic is probably better. The Donki contains 0.4 grams 30 pieces for 1,099 yen, and then the Susai contains the same 0.4 grams per capsule and then 32 pieces for 1,980 yen. So the Susai does have 2 more capsules but almost double in price compared to the Donki. And then even though they say that they have the same volume of 0.4 grams per capsule, I would say the Donki seems like there is more in there, like per capsule when you just pour it out, but it might just be that the actual formula is like physically more light compared to the Susai. For the texture, the actual powder itself is almost identical. Very hard to tell the difference unless you have them side by side. When you actually touch the powder, I would say the Donki does seem grittier. When I foam it in my hands, the Susai does seem to dissolve ever so slightly quicker, probably because it is a finer powder, and it does have a little bit more of a kind of fluffy, luxurious foam to it. And then when you do use a foaming tool, the Susai definitely has a more denser, again, form holding kind of foam to it. Efficacy and user experience. Both cleanse well, both give that skin smoothing feeling after it is cleansed and does give a nice kind of light exfoliation for your pores, especially in the T-zone. They both foam up easily, don't necessarily feel stripping to the skin, but don't feel like overly hydrating either. So does it qualify as a dupe? Yes, because honestly, I could barely tell the difference with this one, I'll be honest. Technically, going off of ingredients and stuff, the Donki would be better for everyday use if you do want to use a powder cleanser every single day, whereas the Susai is better for kind of few times a week, deep cleansing care or exfoliating care. Now, I will say the Susai does have 5 different types now as part of the collection, depending on your skin type and skin concern. I use the gold one, which I definitely feel is a little bit more moisturizing. So obviously, having those different options is kind of a benefit of the Susai, where you can kind of match it to your skin, versus the Donki. I'm pretty sure there's only this type. Like, this was the only powder cleanser when I was last there. Who knows? They'll probably come out with another one. But for the price, Donki is definitely like easily comparable as a dupe. Dupe! Now, finally, something that is not cleansers. We are going to be comparing a hydrating Hatomugi toner. Yes, we are. The Cosparade Hatomugi Skin Lotion versus the Naturia Hatomugi Skin Conditioner. There are definitely many different Hatomugi toners out there, but I'm pretty sure this is supposed to dupe this one. Just going off of the front packaging, I think the Naturia one is probably the most famous one as well. All right, let's take a look at the ingredients first. So I feel like this one is a fair difference in terms of how many ingredients. The Naturia only has 10, whereas the Donki definitely has a few more than that. But it does also mean that the Donki does have kind of more skin benefiting ingredients. Hydrating agents, it has glycerin, DPG, butylene glycol, sodium hyaluronate, and then hydrolyzed collagen. And it does also have a bunch of herbal and botanical extracts in there too, versus the Naturia is keeping it real simple. Hydrating agents are glycerin, dipropylene glycol, butylene glycol, and then it does have some soothing ingredients, the Hatomugi obviously, and then also dipotassium glycerate, the licorice root extract that is very, very common in Japan as a soothing and kind of acne prevention ingredient. Both are alcohol and fragrance free. Now, the packaging, the Donki does come in a pump, which I absolutely love. The Naturia used to be a twist off lid, but now it is just a pop off or flip top or whatever you call it. The Donki is 1000 mils, so 1 liter for 769 yen, whereas the Naturia is 500 mils for 748 yen. So it is basically the exact same price, while the Donki is double the amount. But let's be honest, $7 either way for 500 mils or 1 liter is still gosh darn cheap. So they're both extremely affordable. For the texture, it is pretty hard to tell, but the Donki is definitely a little bit more watery. Actually, it's basically water. Like, the texture is very, very lightweight, literally like water. And the Naturia has a tiny little bit of viscosity compared to the Donki, but honestly it is still water light, and then the actual formula itself is a lot more opaque compared to the Donki. In regards to efficacy and user experience, as I said earlier, love the pump. One pump is good for one layer since it is such a lightweight formula, super layerable, and it also absorbs incredibly quick but leaves your skin feeling soft. Whereas the Naturia, since it is, I would say, slightly more moisturizing, it can leave the tiniest amount of tack and take a little bit longer to absorb. So if you're in a bit of a rush, this one might actually be easier to kind of deal with layering multiple times. And both of these are intended to be used as like a multi-layer toner. That is actually how they recommend using it. So in terms of layerability, this one will sink in and absorb quicker too. Does it qualify as a dupe? Yeah, I would totally say it is a dupe for sure. I've actually really been enjoying the Donki. You can go absolutely nuts with the amount you get for the price. It is also great for DIY cotton masking, as well as using it on the body, because you can use so much without feeling guilty. Obviously, again, the Naturia is probably more accessible for more people kind of across the globe. But if you do have space in your luggage, if you're in Japan, like $7 for this, it's gonna last you forever. I mean, maybe I kind of dripped everywhere, didn't I? That's not good. Okay, that's one bad thing I found. Kind of leaks. But this was possibly the best dupe I found out of the Donki products I've tried so far. The last product we are comparing are rice sheet masks. The Cosparade Fukurinko Rice Essence Facial Mask versus the Nadeshiko Keana Rice Mask. The Keana Nadeshiko Rice Mask is probably one of the best-selling sheet masks from Japan, like at a global scale as well, and it has been a long-time favorite of mine as a kind of simply hydrating and plumping sheet mask. Now let's take a look at the ingredients list. I would say that with these two, they are fairly similar. Both lists starting off with water, glycerin, glycols, and then ethanol towards the top of the list. And then both are obviously rice focused as well, as that's kind of like the big seller ingredient. On top of that, the Donki does have the addition of ceramides to help with your skin barrier, and then the Nadeshiko has arginine for the skin barrier too. So both are fragrance free, both pretty similar in terms of ingredients and skin benefits, I guess. Now for the packaging, the Donki does come in a huge Ziploc bag, and the Nadeshiko usually comes in a Ziploc bag too, which I think contains 10, but this one I did go for the bulk box. Finally, I'd been like contemplating getting it for a really long time. The Donki one has 33 pieces with 396 ml of essence for 659 yen, whereas the Nadeshiko has 28 pieces with 455 ml of essence for 1,600 yen. So the Nadeshiko is significantly more expensive, but notice that there is more liquid in here than this, even though there's less sheet mask. So that means per sheet mask there's actually more liquid essence to go with it. So that's kind of like an interesting point to note. Let's talk about texture. The actual sheet itself first. The Donki does seem a lesser quality. I would say it is more durable, like you can't really rip it, but especially when I fold up the sheet after using it and kind of like doing that swipe off with the essence, the Donki definitely feels rough on the skin. The Nadeshiko is honestly a much softer feeling sheet. It is silky, it is smooth, it almost has this kind of cushioning feel to it, and it is definitely like a thicker sheet. In terms of the actual essence, the Donki one is clear and way more like viscous kind of slimy texture, whereas the Nadeshiko is watery and more opaque. Efficacy and user experience. The fit of the actual masks themselves are not very different at all. The Nadeshiko one might be like slightly bigger and it does stick to the skin a little better. The Donki one does say to wear for 15 minutes versus the Nadeshiko says only 5, but I did wear them for equal time, 10 minutes, to compare the actual kind of hydrating properties against each other. Nadeshiko definitely leaves my skin feeling way more hydrated. Like you can just tell all of the hydration has been supplemented into my skin from the sheet mask, whereas the Donki, I would say by the time I'm removing it, the sheet kind of feels dry already, and I can't say my skin feels overly hydrated. So in conclusion, does it qualify as a dupe? This one was no competition at all. No, it is not a dupe. From the very first time I tried this one, I could tell it was not coming close. The sheet quality as well as the extra essence in the Nadeshiko ones really does make a difference. And the formula itself does definitely feel a lot more deeply hydrating than the Donki. I honestly would not even recommend this as just like a regular hydrating mask. I feel like there are plenty of cheap ones out there that will give you a bit more hydration than this. So yeah, don't bother with this one. Just stick with good old Canada Nadeshiko. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed a true in-depth comparison review of Japanese icon skincare products versus the Donki dupe. It was definitely interesting to see the results, as some products were like easily a dupe and then others were not even close at all. So you really don't know if a product is a dupe until you truly use it. Hopefully this can help some of you guys out if you were thinking about trying some of the Donki alternatives to these Japanese skincare icons. If you still want to hang out a little bit longer, I have selected 2 other videos for you to check out here. I might chuck up like Donki related videos because we all love Donki, am I right? And I could totally go for one of their sweet potato yakimos right now. That would go down so hard. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!